I'm Tarek Al-Mashini, and welcome to The Fight. This is a show about boxing and MMA. But anytime there's a story of great struggle and perseverance about the fight of life, we will cover it. But as for now, we're going to be talking about tomorrow night, okay? Tomorrow will be one of the most coveted nights in boxing history. It doesn't come around too often, but it's the fight of the century. It is the super fight. It's the fight we've all been waiting for. And it's Errol Spence Jr., the unified welterweight champion of the world, against Terence Crawford, who is a welterweight champion. I'm not going to mention the alphabet soup belts, and I have a reason for that. And I'll do an entire video of why I don't like those organizations. I think they gave great structure to the sport, but I don't like the way they operate. I think they fall too much for favoritism, and there's too many very weird relationships with promoters, and I think it's doing a negative to the sport now. It could have been a positive at some point, but look, guys like Teddy Atlas have been calling out the alphabet soup for decades, and he's absolutely right. So I don't want to mention it. Look, tomorrow night is for the lineal championship, excuse me, in the world, and it's between the two most dangerous welterweights and maybe two of the greatest champions in history, two of the greatest fighters in history. We know that Terence Crawford is a certified legend, three-division world champion, undefeated. I mean, 39 fights with 30 KOs. He has more knockouts than Spence has fights. Been boxing since he was 7 years old. I believe he might have been Olympic team alternate. I could be wrong about that, but he's a very high level amateur who became one of the pound for pound best boxers in the world. But with that said, Errol Spence is also one of the best pound for pound boxers in the world, and he's a very dangerous fighter with great skills, a great IQ, always in great shape, and a bruiser. I mean, he comes in there and does tremendous damage. How many faces do you have to break before people consider you a very dangerous fighter? Great puncher, great fighter, and tomorrow night is going to be spectacular. Could be a dud. Maybe it won't live up to the hype. That happens sometimes. Sometimes you have a super fight and it doesn't live up to it, like Trinidad and De La Hoya. Sometimes you have two great punchers and they're so dangerous and they hit so hard that they kind of cancel each other out, and then you get kind of a boring affair where two guys don't want to get hurt. I will say that I don't think tomorrow night, I don't think these two guys fight that way. That's just not their style, and that's not their disposition. Spence lets his hands go. Crawford's always looking for the knockout. I just can't see how this is not going to be a very violent altercation. I think crazy stuff is going to happen tomorrow night. But let's just chop it down into a couple of pieces. I can't make a overly intricate fight video about it because we've run out of time. I've spent weeks, a month, since they've announced this fight, talking about it 24/7. We've looked at it from every single angle. Me, my brother, my buddies, anyone I could talk to about it. We have dissected this fight and looked at it from every angle. And I wish that I can sit here and make a comprehensive video on every single minute detail, but it just would take too long. But we've come away with a summary, a tremendous summary about what will happen tomorrow night. But look, we're going to start with the tail of the tape. Spence is 33, Crawford is 35. Spence, at 33 years old, is in the final year of his prime. This is the 11th hour of the prime. This is it. The clock is striking midnight, really, for both guys, because Terence Crawford is 35 years old. Now, he looks great, but a fighter gets old overnight. And you also have to wonder about his motivation. I'm not saying he's not a motivated fighter. I'm not saying he doesn't train hard. I'm saying when you're 35, you've won titles in 3 divisions. He made a buttload of money in his last fight. He's made some millions. Tomorrow night, he's going to make tens of millions more. At some point, at 35 years old, you have to wonder if Terence Crawford really has the same vigor and enthusiasm. Because when I look at Spence, I think Spence is right in the thick of it. He's right in the middle of it. He's far from the beginning. He's advanced. This is the most mature Spence has ever been. But there's no indication that he's near the end. Now tomorrow night, Crawford can make it the end. Crawford is a dangerous guy, and by the time he's done with Spence, he can make it the end of his career. He really can. But Spence, on the other hand, can also end Crawford's career. Tomorrow is the precipice. The world will change after tomorrow. So back to the tail. I digress. Back to the tail of the tape. Spence is 28-0 with 22 knockouts. Crawford 39-0, 30 knockouts. Spence, of course, has 3 of the unified belts, of the sanctioning body belts. Crawford has 1 of them. When they put them all together, people will say that it'll be the first undisputed champion of the 4-belt era. I'm not looking at the alphabet soup. I think tomorrow night will crown the lineal champion of the world the way it was in the olden days. There'll be one man. That one man will be the champ, and all those belts really don't matter. Errol Spence is 5'9.5". Crawford is 5'8", but Spence has a 72-inch reach and Crawford has a 74-inch reach. I think those long, gangly arms of Terence Crawford, they have an impact. It's just when you think somebody's short and they're a little bit further away, but they're able to reach you, and especially you're looking at 2 inches more. That's crazy, and that's something to actually look out for tomorrow night. So, look, that's the tail of the tape. How do we summarize what's going to happen tomorrow? Look, I think the big misconception about Errol Spence is that he's just a come-forward guy. He's not. I think that he's a well-rounded, complete fighter. I think that he's a lot like a boa constrictor, because what Spence will do is that he'll get you, okay, and he'll involve you in a battle. But if you're strong, he won't force the issue. He'll work laterally. Whatever he does moving forward, he can do backing up and moving around. So Errol Spence, in a lot of his fights against very strong opposition, he's not hard-headed. He's not going to meet you head-to-head every single second. What he'll do is he'll come out there and he'll box and he'll try to move forward. And if you're strong, he'll let you take the lead and he'll break you down. And then somewhere eventually he'll demoralize you. He'll break you down enough. He'll beat you up enough. And then you'll see him coming forward. And I believe that a lot of people remember the last half of the fight, the end of the fight. They don't remember the first half of the fight where he does all that good work. On the other, and to add to that, he's got Derek James in the corner. Look, I think that Errol Spence is a smart guy. I really do. I think that he does make adjustments and he thinks in the ring and he has an IQ. But I really believe that Errol Spence has Derek James in the corner, and Derek James does a lot of the driving. He is the brain trust there. I think Terence Crawford, on the other hand, I don't think that there's a brain trust there. And it's not a knock on his trainers. I just think that he trains himself. I think he thinks for himself. I think he does what he wants. And I don't believe that he comes into a fight, per se, with a strategy. I think that he's a freestyle fighter. I think Terence Crawford gets in tremendous shape. And then I think that he comes in and he fights you every second of every single round from pillar to post. He's always there. He's always engaged. He's always fighting you. And then if the fight goes the distance, it does. But most of the time, people cannot handle Terence Crawford's timing, speed, and punching power. He will get you. He'll sneak you. He'll sneak you when you don't see it coming, and and like a true puncher, he will plant his feet and punch through the target. Now, I will say both guys punch through the target and both guys are susceptible to getting hit. So I'd love to say, well, Crawford's the slicker, more defensively responsible guy. That's not the truth. It could be even, and I mean Crawford. Spence, on the other hand, could be a little bit more fundamentally sound, a little bit more careful, but both guys get hit clean. Neither one of them is Floyd Mayweather or Pernell Whitaker. They both get hit clean. Now, I've seen Spence shook, but I've seen Crawford hurt. There's a big difference between the two. I think that Spence is the more durable guy. I think the size could make a difference. We have to see tomorrow night how much Spence rehydrates and how that affects Crawford. But by the look of the weigh-in, by look of that surreal, weird final press conference, they both look drawn. Their eyes both sunken in, and they both look really surly. I think both of them had to really work hard to make the weight. So the idea that Terence Crawford, because he came up from lower weight divisions, can't compete with Spence in this division, I think he can match him. I don't know if he's ready for the kind of war of attrition that Spence brings to the table. So a lot of people criticize Crawford's competition. A lot of people would even criticize Spence's competition. But Spence has been in with other winners. He's had to take the belts from fighters who had a lot of vigor and enthusiasm and something to fight for and something that they didn't want to lose. And a lot of times, you can't say that too much about Crawford's career so far at 147. I think the last 6 title defenses have been very amiable. And the thing is, if you look at their last 2 fights, what I mean is their last fight, each guy's last fight, Spence had that great unification battle with Yordenis Ugas. He had to battle for it. He had to persevere. He finally turned it around. He beat this guy up. He broke his face. How many faces do you got to break to be considered a great puncher? I mean, he's a bruiser. And he unified the belt in a very spectacular way. It was a hard-fought TKO victory, and he had to overcome a very skillful fighter. No one has ever done that to Ugas, actually. Ugas has lost fights where people thought he should have won. On the other hand, Terence Crawford kind of fought the run-of-the-mill fare that we've become accustomed to watching. He knocked out Adevician cold, but before he got knocked out, he took a lot of shots. So both guys, every single time that I look for a positive, some kind of edge of one guy over the other, it's very difficult to find that edge. For everything Crawford does right, Spence does something right. For everything Crawford or Spence doesn't do right, Crawford also has some negative to be capitalized on. So it is very difficult to gauge, to find that little bit of edge. We might actually have to wait for the walk-ins when they walk to the ring to really see where they are, where their minds are. See, my favorite predictor is the walkouts, the ring walks. Those ring walks are my favorite indicator of what might happen in a fight. I will look at a ring walk. I'll see how the guy comes out. Is he looking at the ground? Does he seem unsure of himself? Because the ring walk has to be one of the most honest moments in boxing. See, there's cameras and there's people everywhere, but it's such a candid and intimate moment. The cameras are on the fighter. He zones everyone out because of the fact that, look, this is real. Like, we're going to walk to the ring and it could be the last time I walk out there. But the fight is on. It's the reality is sinking in. And at that moment, you can tell so much about where a man's mind is and where his heart is. So tomorrow, we'll be able to maybe glean something that would give an edge one way or the other. We've seen some stuff. We've seen some discrepancies. We've listened to them talk. There's lots to break down on both sides that could be positive or could be negative. You could say that they both are sort of underestimating each other. They're both sort of overestimating their own abilities against each other. So what that tells me is that tomorrow, I think it's impossible we're going to have a dud. I think tomorrow we're going to have a exciting, violent altercation. And the question is it going to end early? Is it going to end late? Is it going to go to the decision? So let's take a look at that for a moment. The most common sense, safe bet that you can make, the safest outcome, if we wanted to predict, would be the fight goes the distance, hard fought, very close, and I think Spence wins a close split decision, barring that he doesn't get knocked down a couple of times in the fight. The reason I say that is that Errol Spence, although he is a good puncher, Errol Spence doesn't look for knockouts, and he will work every single round to at least win the round. So Errol Spence does not rely on the knockout at all. Although he has strength, he has power, he can do damage. Errol Spence does focus on just being active and winning the rounds. The second thing I'll say is that Errol Spence has the political advantage. Look, Terence Crawford signed with PBC, but he signed with PBC for only a couple of fights. We're talking about for this fight and a potential rematch. He's not a PBC fighter. Errol Spence is a PBC fighter. At the end of the day, and look, we don't want to indict officials, We've seen a plethora of officials in the last month alone that have made very dubious decisions, referees who have made very dubious calls, judges who are producing wildly insane scorecards. So look, if I had the proof, then I would make the indictment, but I don't have any proof. But do we not trust our lying eyes? Look, Terence Crawford needs a knockout to win. Now you say, look, he's knocked out the last 10 guys that he fought. But somehow, when you have to get that 11th knockout, that's the one that eludes you. So, if Spence can make it to decision and the fight is close, you got to imagine that many of those close rounds are probably going to go to Spence. And that the potential, the likeliness, and I'm not going to say it's for sure, but the likeliness that Spence will pull out a very close decision is very good, considering that he's the A side of the fight. Another possibility is one or the other stopping each other late. So Spence has a history. If Spence gets on a roll and he invests in the body early, and Crawford did struggle to make weight, and the size does make a difference, and he can't sneak Spence, or he does catch Spence with his money shot. He sets him up, he gets him, but Spence gets shook. But then Spence eats it, recovers, and keeps coming the way he usually does, then Crawford's going to have a long night. And if Spence can manage to get to Crawford consistently, and he does damage, because let me tell you something, no matter how much heart you have, how much spirit that you employ, at the end of the day, a broken face is a broken face. Damage to the body is damage to the body. The thing is, I don't see Terence Crawford quitting for nothing. But if he gets hurt enough, if he gets damaged enough, he might not make it the distance. And that's a great possibility. On the other hand, what if Terence Crawford does find him? What if he does land his money punch? Because Terence Crawford has a unique way of always facing you, of finding an angle, of catching you with something creative that you don't see coming. I've always thought Spence could win this fight. But when I saw Terence Crawford hit Kell Brook with a knockout jab, I mean, he invented a jab that can knock you out. He set him up, and Kell Brook couldn't have been any less aware of this. I mean, he could not even fathom this in his mind. He saw it, he set him up, he had great vision, and he hit him with the jab, and that started the downfall. I mean, everything after that was elementary. The thing is also, when Crawford does hurt you, you're done. He doesn't lose his mind. He doesn't trip over himself to get you. He's fundamentally sound. It's exactly what you would teach someone what to do when they get their opponent hurt. When you're hurt, he takes his time and he'll piece you up. Think about it. If you can hurt the guy when he's sober, what can you do to him when he's out of his mind, when he's delirious? So Crawford could catch him at some point, the way he catches everybody else, and put him out. Now, the craziest outcome is Errol Spence knocking him out early. We're talking about the first 3 rounds, the first minute of the first round, the first 3-4 rounds, or the first half of the fight, to be a little bit more liberal with it. That first half of the fight, someone could go out. Now, I'm leaning towards Spence, but someone could get knocked out in the beginning, but that's going out on a limb here. Someone gets caught, it's going to be an explosion. So the thing is, to the fight fans, if the fight starts, don't blink. Don't blink. Don't get up and go to the bathroom. Don't go get some food. Don't say, hey, let me go to the kitchen and grab a beer. Okay? Because once the fight starts, it's going to be edge of your seat, nail biter, because we have to see, once they start really engaging with each other, what's going to happen. Look, I think that when you look at the dynamics of this fight, Errol Spence is going to be the more active guy. Terence Crawford is going to be I think the more clever guy. I think the politics is on Spence's side. I think that Crawford is the more intellectually sharper guy. When you look at them talk, Crawford has better lines. It's a little bit more well spoken, has more profound ideas. He's just a wittier person. But for every witty fighter, for every Sugar Ray Robinson, there's a Carmen Basilio. There's a Jake LaMotta. There's a guy who's going to come and hand you your ass. He might not be as smart as you, but he's a world-class, world champion level, champion heart, and he's going to come and bring it to you. And I love the fact that Errol Spence Jr. is, in a way, a simpleton. He's a simple guy. He trains hard. He gets in good shape. He has good fundamentals. He has a great trainer with a great mind. And then he'll come out there and get to work. There's no overcomplications. There's no overanalyzing. There isn't, hey, I'm going to build up this fight. Oh, it's a big event. Oh, this guy's a legend. Oh, this guy can hit this guy. He's going to come in and do exactly what he's going to do. On the same hand, Terence Crawford is going to come and do exactly what he's going to do. Because I don't know if he's overanalyzing it. I feel like Terence Crawford may be overanalyzing it more so than Errol Spence. I can't. I wish I could make a solid, confident prediction. I really wish. This is probably the most competitively even matches on paper I have ever seen, because these guys can cancel each other out. These guys can take each other out. Both of these guys have enough assets to be able to overcome the other. Now, I will say this. I want to see it to believe it. It's very hard to see Terence Crawford take a loss. He's been such a phenom. I think the last time I checked, the odds was plus 120 Errol Spence and minus 150 Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford being a minus 50 favorite, I think, is a fair deal. I think because of the 10 knockouts, I think because of the cleverness, I think because of the sharp wit and the boxing ability, and especially his last fight, the way he slept that guy. I mean, that was vicious. I think it's fair that he's the favorite. And I think that Errol Spence Jr. on Saturday night has to go and do something legendary. This is his moment. I think Terence Crawford is a legend. I mean, 3 divisions. You can criticize his opponents. That's fine. I think both guys have something to prove, but I think Errol Spence seems to have more to lose, more to prove. And I feel like Terence Crawford, although he loves this fight, although he wants the glory, although he loves to get this big payday, although becoming undisputed champion in yet another division is a great accomplishment, but he said it so many times this last week. This is more like a cherry on top. This is a bonus. You don't want to hear that. So one guy is giving up money, putting up belts. He needs to become undisputed champion. This is his moment in time. And the other guy says, well, if I win, great. If I don't, I'm cool. I've done everything, Look, I love Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford is a phenom, much the way that Inoue. No, in a way, I gotta learn how to pronounce his name better. But the Monster, I believe that a lot like the Monster, he's a phenom. I mean, he is a special fighter. Not a lot of guys come along who are experts like Terence Crawford. And Terence Crawford is an expert. He's a boxing master. But he's 35 years old. He has 39 fights. That loss is due. Those knockdowns are due. And not a lot of guys end up like Floyd Mayweather at 50-0. 49-0. Okay, 50-0. Not a lot of guys end up like Floyd Mayweather. And you have to wonder, for Terence Crawford, was Adevesian the last great knockout he'll have? Is this going to be a schism tomorrow? Are we going to see a whole new paradigm? I think it's very possible. I think I want to see what happens when Terrence Crawford hits Errol Spence with his money punch. I think when he finally gets him, when he sneaks it in, when he gives him what he really has, I want to see how Errol Spence takes it. If Errol Spence shakes it off and continues to fight his fight, then I think it's going to be Errol's fight. Look, I'm going to go out on a limb too. I think Errol Spence is going to stop him early. You know, in my mind's eye, maybe this is the fight fan in me, but I think Errol Spence is going to knock out Terrence Crawford. It's a very difficult thing to see happening, but something's telling me that we might be on our way to seeing something spectacular on Saturday night. Someone's always got to go, but I think someone is going to get knocked out. I think that there's two. I think a lot of guys who don't get knocked out by Spence clam up and fight a negative fight, and I think the guys who open up get damaged and get taken out of there. I mean, Danny Garcia didn't want to let his hands go at some point. He clammed up. Mikey Garcia put his mitts up and just decided to hide, and I believe that Porter got the worst of it. You know, it just, he was a tough customer at that moment in time, and he made it the distance. But I just don't see, I don't see how you have that much punching power and skill and timing and activity, and neither guy is afraid to let their hands go. So I really think if it came down to it, I would say that I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what Spence is going to do. You know, Terrence Crawford is a very difficult person to imagine losing, and it's going to be very surreal to see that. But I know I'm going to be wrong, and I think Crawford may take it, you know, but I'm going to go with Spence. I'm going to pick Spence to win this fight. I think the most logical is by decision, maybe by a close decision, but I think that there's going to be a knockout in this fight, and I think Spence is going to get it. Look, to sum this all up, tomorrow night is a treat for all fight fans. Whether you're a casual or whether you're a hardcore fan like me, tomorrow is really a once in a lifetime. Could be once in a lifetime opportunities. There's more great fights. Shoot, we got Charlo and Canelo in September, and I'm going with Charlo 100%. I think Charlo's going to win. But there's going to be a lot of great fights. But tomorrow night is something special. So at the end of the day, I'm just going to go with it. I've backed Spence throughout his career. I don't think that he's the more clever or the more articulate fighter, but I think that he has what it takes to get the victory tomorrow night. But I also understand that there could be a chance that Terrence Crawford does some Michael Jordan shit, and he comes in there and he does everything that he said he would do, and he just absolutely makes history. History will be made tomorrow. It's inevitable. It's unavoidable. One guy will be the winner, one guy will be the loser, and they are both pound for pound. They're both undefeated. And someone, even if it's a draw, I think it's going to be crazy. But tomorrow night, we're going to see something special. I'm going with Spence. I think Crawford could pull it off. I know it's, I'm probably going to bet on the draw just like Kambosos. But, I'll go out on a limb. I'll make a fool out of myself. Why not? I'll eat my shoes. But I think Spence will win. I think Spence will win by a knockout. I think Spence will likely win by decision, but I'm going to go with the knockout. And I think also there's a very good chance that Terrence Crawford can even do something spectacular tomorrow night. But I will be tuning in and paying attention very closely. Now, before I sign off, before I say goodbye, I want to just say something about last week's Fulton Inoue fight. I'm not going to break that down. There's no need. I think it's self-explanatory. Go watch it. I think there might be a copy on YouTube. Go see it if you haven't seen it. The Monster, Naoya Inoue. What an unbelievable fighter. I mean, he didn't look like he moved up any weight divisions. He not only did he look very strong and it was very surreal. He looked like he could fight in any weight division. That guy was so good. So I think the weird I think the weird part about that fight, what was surreal was just how comfortable he was, and how nothing affected him at all. And the guy's a boxing master. His IQ, his ability, his skills were levels, leagues, universes above Stephen Fulton. It was unbelievable. It was such a spectacle. And to be honest with you, the way it looked, I wouldn't be surprised. I think he can compete at 127, and I think he can even compete at a higher weight than that. The way he looked, you'd look at him and you say, "This is a tiny guy." But man, there was nothing small about that performance. That was unbelievable, unbelievable. And the Fulton camp made so much about the hand wraps and stacking and all this kind of stuff that has to do with manipulating the hand wraps to generate more power. It meant nothing. Inouye's power doesn't come from anything that has to do with hand wraps and stuff. It comes from his awesome vision, his awesome timing, his speed to get to that point. The guy just knows what he's doing. He's always a step ahead. He played with Fulton. He played with him. And that knockout right hand, the way that he was able to jab and hide it and then right away bring it from his chin right over. It was unbelievable. So, look, I got to confess, in the past I didn't pay too much attention to the monster, but I will, which is pretty naive of me. I got to go back, watch all those fights again. You know, the problem with those low weight divisions is that they go under the radar, but there are some phenoms, some all-time greats, some generational talents that come out of those little weight divisions. And I think the monster is one of them. And I really hope, I think the worst part about it is the fact that in his weight divisions, from 122 on down, there's no one that can compete with him. And maybe at 127, but it seems like all the killers, all the great fights are like 15, 20 pounds, even further away. So that's the disappointment. But I would love to see the monster move up and challenge himself, and let's see what he could do. I believe he can fight in any weight division. The guy's so good. I mean, that performance was spectacular. It was surreal. It was masterful. And the way he was leagues above as a world champion, it was a tremendous performance, and I can't wait to see him again. Anyhow, tomorrow night, Spence, Crawford. I'm going with Spence. Crawford could pull off a spectacular win. I know I'm walking down, trying to balance between both guys. That's not cool, but I will go out on a limb and say Spence by knockout. You know, I'm probably going to be wrong about that, but that's what I'm going with. I'm looking at the whole dynamics of the situation, and I think Spence is going to pull it off. Inoue, Naoya, the Japanese, the monster, what a tremendous talent, and I can't wait till he fights again. I'm a huge fan. He's now one of my favorite fighters in the world. My favorite fighters are Gervonta Davis, Volkanovski in MMA, and the monster. I love that guy. Anyhow, thanks for joining me. Once again, this is The Fight. Please like, subscribe, share, and let's see what happens tomorrow night. We'll get on here. Once again, we'll discuss what happened, how it happened, and all the particulars. Maybe I'll do a live stream and we can discuss it. But I'll make another video, and then we're going to move on from there to the next big fight. I'm guessing that's Canelo and Charlo. But until next time, I'm Tarek El Mashini, and this is The Fight. Thanks for joining me.